All right, who doesn't love the smells and sound of that? Pretty cool. 1975 Yamaha MX400B, the last year of MX before they went to YZs. Okay, so there's a lot of cool Ventco parts in this bike, mainly with those critical to find engine parts. We got the piston, gaskets, rod, bearings for the engine on this thing, and we're going to bring in Norm Francis, who kind of heads up these projects. Him and his buddy Gary, they put these things together and they come out amazing. We've showed a couple of their bikes in the past, so we're going to rope him in here and give you some little details on this bike. Okay, so I've got Norm in here, and he's really good at fixing up these old bikes, and one of the big things he does is paint tanks and other things, and he fixes up these tanks and they come out looking really amazing. But what I want to talk about first is you guys bought this bike for around $400 in pretty rough shape, right?
Yeah, it was a complete bike, but somebody had a big desert tank on it. It had been outside. It was kind of a rust bucket type bike. It rolled. Luckily, the bones were good. The major parts were there, and we were to go there from there to go through it. But luckily, like I say, the pipe was there. Everything was there but the gas tank, which was hard to come by.
Okay, then as far as, so you had to go find a tank to replace that desert tank. So you went and found one that you painted up here?
Yes, one of my old buddies used to ride ISDEs, Rob Wethrin. He had one just hanging in his garage, and luckily he was nice enough to send it down to me.
It came out amazing. It looks as good or better than stock off the showroom floor. So the tank, it just looks amazing with those genuine stickers. It looks so good.
Actually, everything on that tank is paint except for the word Yamaha. Everything else is my paint.
That's awesome. So as far as the rest of the bike, like the forks, the swing arm, the frame, you didn't have to do anything major on that kind of stuff?
Well, we had to weld up a few doingers here in the frame and then, make it all nice and smooth. Gary Chaplin, my partner, which does all this, he handled all the forks, brought the forks back to original inside and out. Everything inside the forks are brand new. Like you said earlier, with all the good Ventco parts, everything inside the motor is brand new. New swing arm bushings. Our buddy, of course, that does all of our bikes, Justin Martin, over powder coating. He does all of our coatings for us. But luckily, like I say, there was no holes in the engine. The cylinder was still on original bore. So it was kind of a low mileage bike, but I think it was just neglected from setting out so much.
Nice. And I see you got a seat cover done up. Did you do this yourself?
No, it's actually a factory remake seat cover, and then our guys over at Moto Seat, they install it for me.
Okay, that's really cool. They do a great job in Southern California here. And then you did all the paint work. Anything else that was kind of tough? I mean, you mentioned the rear chain guide, the lower chain guide at the rear here. That thing was all balled up, and you had to do some custom work there. Yeah,
the chain guides on these are made out of really thin sheet metal, and you throw a chain one time or hit a rock, they get bent up. Well, I only had about 3/4 of this to work with because it was missing pieces and just totally twisted. Just sat there with a torch, hammer, and dolly and replaced some sheet metal and just kept getting it straightened out until we got it good enough to where it looks like brand new.
Okay, very good. And what else was there that was kind of hard to find, or that somebody else would have a hard time finding? You got some good connections, but what are some of the pieces that would be hard to find locating if you're trying to fix up one of these old bikes?
The original rear silencer. This bike came with the original Yamaha accessories Skyway spark arrestor that was an optional dealer factory Yamaha part, and it took us about 5 months to find a cherry original silencer.
And then are you able to rebuild that one?
No, it's a weld together.
Right, it's welded together, and that silencer is about the same size as what was on my RM80 in 1977 RM80.
Yeah, and that's why these things are so darn loud. There's not much there.
Okay, so the exhaust pipe on these things is kind of unique. I think of my jet skis had multiple pieces, and not a lot of dirt bikes would have these kind of multiple pieces. And this is like a 3-piece pipe?
Yes, well, the way Yamaha designed it, if you look really closely, if this was a 1-piece pipe or 2-piece pipe, including the silencer, you're not getting that pipe off this front chain chassis. So Yamaha did a horseshoe bend down below, which all spring mounted, and then they did the main expansion chamber, then they did the slip-on silencer part. And if you notice, it's all held together by springs. And the lower horseshoe coming out of the cylinder always gets smashed by rocks and doingers and just loaded in and out trucks. And we were fortunate enough to find an almost brand new one that was like 1 or 2 little doingers in it. And we were lucky finding that. But other than that, Yamaha engineers had to have a nightmare designing this pipe.
Yeah, it looks cool. And you did a good job of getting those dents out and getting the thing looking nice. And handlebars and controls, where do you get kind of some of that stuff?
The levers are actually factory. I have lots of old inventory at home in my boxes I save, and we just had everything repolished. Polish them up with our polishers at the shop and clean them all up. Bars are a real close replica to what the OEM was back then, period correct race bars. We did just source before the photo shoot. They're not here yet, but we did source some brand new OEM leftover handle grips, which will be on the bike.
Oh, cool. And so these bars, where do you get these from?
They're actually a good Scrambles replica bar, come from Fly Racing.
So when I saw this at first, I've never seen, I shouldn't say never, but I haven't seen very many painted carbs. And these things were in 1975 original black.
Yes, the entire motors were black except for the fins on them. In fact, some of the models actually, the fins weren't even polished, but it's almost like Yamaha put a complete motor together and just sprayed everything black, before they put it in. But no, the carburetors on Yamahas for like 72 through 75, maybe some of the 76 models, they were actually all painted black.
Okay, now, what about the intake boot, both sides of the carburetor? Those boots, I know on some of the bikes I've dealt with, and even restoring some of these 90s, can be in bad shape. What was your experience here?
I had a new NOS reed block boot, the cylinder side one. I had that in my stash at home. The stock air cleaner to carburetor boot is actually the stock one. I actually did my magic on the stove with some boiling water and some olive oil and brought it right back to life and softened it right up, and it's like brand new.
He's got a lot of these little, tricks of the trade there, and I've learned some of those from him and used them on some of my builds as well. So anyway, great looking bike, looks and sounds amazing. So guys can hit you up on Facebook if they're interested in maybe purchasing this bike or one of your future builds, right?
Yeah, feel free to get a hold of myself, Norm Francis on Facebook, or Gary Chaplin on Facebook. Like I said earlier, Gary's my partner. Gary does pretty much all the engine work inside of him.
Okay.
And he does the suspension work. I pretty much just do the paint work, a lot of the final assembly work, and we work together, do all the final details. It's just a good team. I do all the wheel lacing and stuff, and between both of us, we come up with a pretty good product, I think.
Oh, for sure. And this is assembled in your house?
Everything but the bore work and the powder coat is done in my garage.
Yeah, now, some of them it's done in the house as well, right?
Oh yeah, you've been to my house.
So it's like there's different rooms for different bikes, assemblies going on, right?
Yeah, we always have between 8 and 9 motorcycles in project in the house on the pull table, and we have a Disneyland for two-wheelers at my house.
Ready? Here's a look at Gary Chaplin and with Norm. This is the brains and the horsepower behind these builds. As Norm said, Gary does the engines and suspension kind of. They do this thing as a team, and while Norm's doing the paint work and helping with some of the chassis stuff, and then they assemble them together in the house. So pretty cool deal, right? So how long have you been helping with these kind of builds with Norm?
Probably about a year.
That's cool. So you guys rushed out a bunch, I know, last year, and so it's great getting these things. So we look forward to seeing more of them. And if you guys like this kind of content, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you later on the next one.
Uh-oh.